Welcome to Sketching Up. Today we are going to talk about mergers or buying. Which one is it? They bought them. Buying things. We're going to talk about how Netflix put in a bid. Did they put in a bid or did they buy?
They put in a bid. It hasn't gone through yet.
Okay, so they put in a bid to buy Warner Brothers for almost $83 billion, which I just can't even comprehend that.
Yeah.
$83 billion.
I'm just like looking at it, and I saw someone post a meme saying Netflix has enough cash to buy Warner Brothers, but gets mad when we share our passwords.
Yeah, right? Like, but other question, and we're just getting off topic to start. I guess we're
Yeah.
on topic. Who's that money go to? They
Yeah.
bought Warner Brothers. Who's Warner? Wasn't Warner Brothers its own entity? Like, who's it go
So
to?
it goes to their shareholders.
Okay, so just the
So
rich get richer. I don't care.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, who cares? So anyway, we're gonna talk about that. The bid. We're gonna talk about what that could mean. We're gonna talk about all the things that can come from that. And we're gonna talk about the new news of Paramount trying to swoop in here at the last moment. We're gonna get into all of that. But for starters, I am running on fumes. I know you are as well. We both chugged some energy drinks right before this because we wanted to make sure we got it in.
So
I already threw away my can, so sorry. You're gonna have to go on Trust Me Bro on this one. There's a lot of trust me, bro, for that. But we are ready to rock. I am excited to. We talked about, and we've talked about this in the past, but consistency. Both of us were gonna text each other saying, "Hey, should we do it tomorrow?"
Yeah.
Something like that. But here we are.
we
Ready to
both
rock.
said to ourselves, not to each other. No, that was the old Sketching Up Matt and Chris. This
Yeah.
is the new Sketching Up Matt and Chris, where you pull up your pants and you just say, "Hey, we're going to go in this. The people want to hear us talk." That's
Pants are supposed to
debatable.
be pulled up.
Yeah,
They're supposed to
yeah,
be pulled up.
yeah. They're
So I should
supposed to be pulled up.
change some stuff here.
Yes.
Got it.
But we should get this out there to the people because this is a
Yes.
big topic. Like, I
It is a
haven't
big topic.
seen anything more come out of this. Like, I feel like the merger between Paramount and what is it? The Sundance or Skydance? The other
Skydance.
Skydance.
Yeah.
That was pretty big, but it didn't have that like whole wow, this is huge type thing to it.
Yeah.
And then when Disney bought Hulu and ESPN and all of that,
Well,
like
Disney
I feel
already
like
owned ESPN.
yeah, but I feel like once we heard they were buying Hulu, like it was like, oh, Disney's buying something else. Like what else is new? The
What
sky
else
is blue.
is new here?
Yeah,
They bought Marvel and
yeah.
Star Wars and whatever the hell else they
Lucasfilms,
want.
all of that. So it's just like
Yeah.
this I feel like is hitting people a lot harder, and we can get into that more down the line for sure.
Yeah.
Like once we talk
I have
about
some opinions on what
everything.
can happen here and where it can go from there. Really quick, is Lucasfilm? What else do they own other than Star Wars? Do they own like the Indiana Jones stuff? Is that
Yes.
Lucasfilm? Okay.
Yeah, that's Lucasfilms.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, what other stuff do they really own?
Yeah, I always find it like very surprising when I'm watching something like from way back, like when the first Star Wars were coming out, and then I'll see
Yeah.
Lucasfilms as the producing company. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, you do other things too, guys.
Yeah,
Good for you.
that's
Look
where
at
my
you.
head was. Like, I don't even
Look at you.
I figured Indiana Jones because I know that's Disney now because they tried to bring 90-year-old Harrison Ford in to do another movie, but
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
wasn't
actually talking about Lucasfilms. George Lucas is opening his museum in LA next year. And I really want to do that. And I was also going to talk to you. Maybe we collab and go to it because it's all about like artistry and comic books and all of this of animation and everything. It's all about art that goes onto the big screen. And it's supposed to be absolutely amazing and beautiful. And there's like 3 theaters in it, and it's like supposed to be really cool. And I think it's opening sometime in the spring next year. I have to look it up again.
Let me
But
know.
like
I'd be
it
down.
looks really cool. So
I'd be down to do that.
cool.
You gotta check out the Cartoon Network Hotel, which brings us into this.
Yes.
Because Cartoon Network is a part of all of the stuff that's gonna be moving. So why don't you give a little synopsis of before the Paramount thing? We can get into that in a little
Yeah,
bit.
for sure.
Go into the Netflix stuff.
So Warner Brothers came out, I think last year, saying that they wanted to sell. And it was
They've wanted to sell for a while.
for a while, but I think they were actually taking
Officially. Yeah.
bids last year, and they needed to see what was going on. And even in the stuff that I was reading, they needed to see what was going on with DC Studios because that's really their moneymaker.
Mhm.
And in the clause of Warner Brothers, they technically own a big share of DC Comics. So there was like a lot of moving pieces to think about when wanting to uh sell the company. So just I believe last week they accepted a bid from Netflix that was $82.7 billion, which my my girlfriend for the past 3 days is like, "Where do they get that money? Where is that money? Like,
Yeah,
how
that's
did they
that's
make
where
that much money?" Like,
that's
it's
where my
like
head's confused. Like,
yeah,
where
like,
did that come from?
and I'm trying to read and tell her where this money's come from, but it's still not making sense to me. Also, I'm not a financial dude, so I don't know, like, all the ins and outs of their finances and how to read that. But so they went in and at the same time, Paramount put a bid in also. And so when Warner Brothers was reviewing, they saw that Netflix and um their contract of what they wanted to buy and everything in it sounded more um
Enticing.
enticing, yes, to the shareholders of Warner Brothers Studios. Now, this does mean when they do buy Warner Brothers, they're getting huge properties. We said Cartoon Network, we said Adult Swim is coming in, and that is theirs. We
The
have
2 but the 2 big ones are DC, like you said, and the Harry Potter
the Harry
sagas.
Potter. I would say the 2 big ones because I read and they had it from the shareholders meetings, which Netflix sent in a deck saying, "This is what we really wanna focus on." And at the top, it was DC and Harry Potter, obviously.
Yep.
The second was the HBO properties.
Yeah,
HBO's been
because
very successful.
yeah.
Their shows have been successful from the beginning, you know? So those are the 2 things that they were really concentrated on that they really like and that they wanted to say, like, in a way, they were saying, like, "We want these and we don't wanna mess with them. So you don't have to be all worried that we're gonna try to jigger them in some way and make them worse."
Yeah. Well, that's the big thing with Netflix because Netflix is really known for throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. Everyone's like, yeah, they have successful shows like Stranger Things and House of Cards and Orange is the New Black that were very successful. But like for every Orange is the New Black, there was 100 shows that never really
Right.
made it or saw the light of day. They were just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what stuck,
Well, yeah, and you
and
still
they don't
see
want
it
that to happen.
today where, a lot of shows that are actually pretty popular to people, and I saw a TikToker talking about it, that, they're only getting 1 season and then they're getting canceled. And
Yeah,
Netflix is known for that. Is like, even though this show may be doing well, to them, it's not doing as well as some of their other properties or some other shows on different platforms and
yeah.
from
It's not
different companies.
comparing to other things, no matter what the fan base looks like. It's not comparing to some other
Yeah,
properties.
so they love to pull the trigger and be like, "You're done. We're done with this.
Yeah,
We're not doing this anymore." And that I think would worry a Warner Brother shareholder. It would worry me if I was like, "All right, we're selling this company, but we don't wanna sell it for parts and have things that are really beloved to people canceled." Because I feel like with HBO and, all the properties that Warner Brother holds, they're not just pulling the plug. I mean, the best example is, and I always go back to it, is the past DC movies coming out. They were not good, and they were still
yeah,
putting them out there. And
yeah,
so, like, they weren't pulling the plug, and people did like them, people don't like them, but they're not saying, "Oh, this Shazam isn't measuring up to the Marvel movie that just came out, so we're not going to put it out there." And they only did it once, and it was with Batgirl, and we
yep.
never saw that in the light of day, and it seems
They
that
just took the tax write off.
yeah, and it seemed that that was the old DC, and now since they brought in Peter Safran and James Gunn, like we won't see that ever again, hopefully. But back to Netflix, they want to they said in their statement, because I got an email. I don't know if you have a Netflix subscription, but they sent an email out to everybody.
I don't think I saw that.
Yeah, and it just plainly said, "Yes, we put a bid in. Yes, Warner Brothers accepted it. Look, we're not touching anything. Like HBO Max is going to be HBO Max. We're not going to merge
We're still
anything."
gonna put out 100 shitty shows a day.
Yeah, Netflix is the same. HBO Max is just the same. Like we're not touching any of that. And they didn't speculate in there and say like we're not touching it yet, because I can't not see a world where at a certain point we're getting what, Disney and Hulu did, where you're going to have to just get Disney Plus and that has Hulu on it. So I can see that happening down the road sometime, but they said it's strictly left okay. They said also, not in the email, but in other things, Peter Safran and James Gunn not getting touched. Like they have full control over DC Studios. They don't, they're doing their thing. We're going to let them cook. So let's just leave them alone. So the thing is that comes in is the drama part of it. And that's Paramount. And Paramount, has not been in the greatest light in
No,
America.
they've
I'd
been
say
bad.
they've been pretty shitty, and the owner of Paramount is very close with the president of the United States and his family. They're very. If you didn't know, Trump's son-in-law is his investment company is a huge shareholder to Paramount now. Like he's a huge one. And with the bid that they did, so they did a counter bid, um, and that didn't go through, and they were really pissed, and they're screaming at the top of their lungs. They're calling up the president and saying, "This is not fair. We put in a bid." But what they're not telling everybody is that they put in their first bid, they put in lower than what Netflix did.
Now
And
they're trying to do another one to say like, "Look, we did more." And it's like, "But we already accepted this one."
yeah, and they did that in the sense of, well, we have this administration in our back pocket and we'll use them if we have to, but they should accept it right off the bat. And which is not how business works. Like
Yeah.
it shouldn't.
Car's off the lot, buddy.
Yeah.
Can't put into
So
payment now.
today, instead of putting a bid in, what they normally call, they put in what I've seen called a hostile takeover bid, which is they go to each individual shareholder and they say, we're going to give you X amount of money. And so all of that, s- all the money that they gave to each shareholder equates to about $108 billion.
Let me just say, this is all so stupid. It's all so stupid.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
first of all, Warner Brothers has been on the down for a long time. Like, I
Yeah.
get, the new DC regime seems to be better,
Oh yeah. But
and
before they were
Harry
horrible.
Potter's big. Like, even before, even now, like, I I'll just stick with Cartoon Network because Cartoon Network's what I know. HBO still has its good stuff. People do people forget that HBO Max changed like 6 times in 3 years because they didn't know what the hell they were doing?
Yeah.
Like, HBO is very successful, but the app was not. Like, I'll stick with Cartoon Network. So when we talk about Cartoon Network a lot and on this show, we did, and we're starting to do it again more. Cartoon Network had its beginning era, which was Looney Tunes, all the stuff they just really bought, the Hanna-Barbera stuff, Looney Tunes stuff. That's all coming in the deal as well. So they bought all that. But that's how Cartoon Network starts. Then they have like that innovation year of the Hanna-Barbera cartoons becoming cartoons that we know and love. If you're my age, those are the ones you grew up with, the Dexter's Laboratories, Powerpuff Girls, things like that. So we're talking first era, early 90s, second era, we'll say late 90s, early 2000s. Let's just say 90s, 2000s to make it easier on what I'm trying to get at here. So 2000s, you have the Dexter's Labs, Ed and Eddie's, Johnny Bravo, stuff like that, the stuff we grew up with. Then the 2010s, you have the Adventure Times, the regular shows, the Steven Universes, things like that. The Amazing World of Gumball came out in there as well. But then Cartoon Network, like, just kinda stopped.
Yeah.
It's around the same time that everything else was going on with Warner Brothers. But, like, Teen Titans Go, which we all know as the death show of Cartoon Network, it was their
Yep.
ridiculousness. It's something they just played over and over and over and over with nothing else going. We all know TV is kinda that way now. You just find what gets you any ratings and just beat it until it's dead kinda thing.
And then beat
They
it
did it with
more.
the Yes, and they did it with The Amazing World of Gumball as well. Like, that show was on all the time, all the time, all the time, but it was still kinda new at the time. Like, it was still having new episodes, I should say. Um, but then let's get into the 2020s, like, I'm not a kid watching Cartoon Network anymore, but I do still watch a lot of animated shows, and not anime, like, animated shows that come out in the United States. And there's been nothing that really compares to any of those eras since the beginning, any of those eras. And it kind of correlates with the fall of Warner Brothers. They did get rid Cartoon Network Studios no longer exists.
Yep.
They got rid of Cartoon Network Studios. And all this arguing back and forth is for properties that are no longer even active, that they're just gonna reboot. They already said they're gonna reboot The Amazing World of Gumball to stick with Cartoon Network. They tried rebooting the Powerpuff Girls. That's all they're gonna try to do with these properties. Like, the only properties you really want that are worth anything that you're not just trying to reboot is Harry Potter in the DC universe. There's really nothing else. Like, what are you gonna do with the old HBOs? Run The Sopranos? Like, that's now on Netflix, and you could sell it off. Like, there's really not anything that comes in this deal that's worth that much except for those 2 properties. So when I say this is stupid, why are we doing a hostile takeover of DC, which, no offense, because I know it's getting better, but it hasn't been successful,
Yeah, no.
and Harry Potter, where the last one came out when I was in high school? Like, I know they have all these other ones. They're
Yeah.
not nearly as successful
No.
as the original 8 movies.
Yeah.
So,
I will
you were
so
talking about how mad they are and how, like, "Oh, we should be able to." Who was why?
what
So
I'll
you could
say
have
with
the
that
biggest
is
network?
the one thing is with that is, yes, like, they sold off the properties for Sopranos and all that, but my only disagreement is that HBO itself has been putting out fire shows since The Sopranos. I mean,
Yeah, they've
you
always
have
had they've
Game of
always
Thrones,
had
you have Succession, you
Curb.
you have Curb, you have,
What
um
was God, why can't I think of it? The video game one that just came season 2 just happened. The
video game?
Last of Us.
Oh, Last of
That's
Us. Yes.
HBO. Barry.
Yes. Yeah, Barry. All these shows they just keep putting out and they're just so good, and a lot of their limited series come out. Like uh Mayor of Easttown was a huge hit. And all of these shows are ratings like they nuke
But
the
do you put
ratings.
it
They're
but do you put it
insane.
out as an HBO product? Do you merge HBO into Netflix? And if you do that, does it stay the same? Because people
It's
I'll tell
not.
you right
I'm gonna
now,
tell you right now, it's
people are
not.
dropping Netflix like crazy, especially, like, I don't know if you said it on air, off air, what you're talking about with like, you have $83 billion, but you don't let me watch it, a second household type thing. It's been being dropped like crazy to a point where it became alarming, and now you see this is like almost an overreaction to that. And then
Yeah.
Paramount is on the other side of it where they're overreacting because their app has never worked. No one ever wanted their app. One thing I will say, going back to cartoons, if Paramount was to get Warner Brothers, they hold a monopoly on the animation space,
They do,
because then
yes.
then they'd have Nickelodeon and they'd have Cartoon Network, which are the
Yep.
2 biggest I was about to say cartoon networks, but you know what I mean, cartoon programmings that you can have. So they would have a grip hold of that space pretty heavily. But
Yeah, but in my mind of that, like, you I even looked at it and I kind of because I was talking to you about, like, "Oh, I just wanna see, like, what properties these guys own," like, like, between net of, like, in the animation space of Netflix, HBO, and Paramount.
Yeah.
Paramount, like you said, yeah, it has all the Nickelodeon properties. It's huge. But when I was looking at the new animations that Netflix and Paramount have put out, because the new animations that are coming out of HBO or Warner Brothers itself is majoritively Adult Swim. Like,
Yeah. They don't do anything.
it's the adult animation that's coming out for those.
Yeah.
So, when I was looking at it, Paramount was under the Nickelodeon Studios putting out, I mean, they're beating SpongeBob like
Yeah.
it's a dead horse.
It's
Like, they just
it's
keep
it's the
they're
it's the
using that like
Simpsons of
there's
children's animation.
yes. And so, when I was looking at it, a lot of their animated stuff doesn't really go for more than 2 seasons, and then they cut it because it's
Yeah.
obviously not doing well.
Well, that's the thing with animation. That kind of goes back to what we were talking about. Like when we first started sketching up, we covered the mini series Infinity Train. If you haven't seen it, so unbelievably good.
Mhm.
And I don't think you were joined. I think it was just Kyle and I at the time when we did
Yeah, I
this.
came on as a guest for one
Yeah.
episode because I was
So
still
we
living in Philly at that time.
Yeah, so we did Infinity Train. It was really good, but it was a limited series. And at the time we talked about why is it a limited series? Because nothing gets past the season anymore. So why not just wrap up your story? It's almost like Gravity Falls was before its time, where now they wanted Gravity Falls to be Disney's Teen Titans Go. Like they wanted to just run forever and forever and forever. But Alex Hirsch knew, like, yeah, my story's 2 seasons and that's it. Like the story's over. Bill Cipher's gone. Like
Yeah.
we're not having him come back in some Michael Myers way where
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
he still exists somehow. Like it's over. I mean, obviously, if you watch it, the door is always left open for some garbage to happen where he's back. But, yeah, like, that's why make something, and in that time frame from Gravity Falls and to now, like, you had Over the Garden Wall, which I believe was around that time too, which was a limited series. So, like, they're just making these limited series now because there's no reason to make a full animated show because it's gonna be gone after 2 years. Animation just doesn't bring in the same numbers it used to, right? Like, if you're gonna look for that kind of stuff, you can
Well,
look on
it
Netflix,
the
you can look
kid
on YouTube.
animation is not doing those
That's what
numbers
I
anymore.
mean. That's
Yeah,
exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, like, you can make an adult animation and run for 40 years, it
yeah.
seems like, with The Simpsons and South Park, and by
I
the
mean,
way,
you got
South Park always also a Paramount, property.
yeah, and they were not Trey and,
Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
yeah, they were not happy with Paramount for a while,
Yeah, and
and
then they gave him the bag, and they're like, "Ah, I guess I'll keep going."
we'll keep going, and then they're putting out fire this season. I mean, it's just
Is it
ripping.
even seasons anymore, or do they just
Yes.
put out specials now?
No, it's all seasons.
I haven't seen a new South Park in quite some time.
Yeah, so the one thing for me is that it if these companies all start merging and everything, and like we're saying, like these animated shows, these TV shows, they're just getting 1 season and then they're getting the snip. Like, what what happens to the creators? What happens to the animators? What happens to these people who are creating these great stories that now they have to feel like a Gravity Falls guy, like, saying, "It's just 2 seasons." Like, it's just that or it's a
What?
limited series,
S
like,
s
and we
Yeah.
can't see more of the world that we're falling in love with by the 2nd episode, and there could be more building. There could be more world building.
I don't think people in animation are trying to do that anymore though, because the most successful, and again, we're not talking like I guess we are talking about this as well because adult animation does the same thing. The most successful thing to do in animation now is to try to get something that literally goes on forever because there's no aging. You can replace voice actors, like you can do all that stuff. So, some don't. Like The Simpsons doesn't replace anybody. Once those main characters start to go, that's when you'll probably see, like when Dan Castanella and Nancy Cartwright and them start to pass. That's probably when you'll see that show end.
Mhm.
But you either go for a season or two, or you go for 20, and it's
Yeah.
consistent work. So I don't even think people are trying to do the limited series, but you're trying to tell a story you do, but you just don't see it anymore. And I think in future episodes, we should try to start finding some that are really good, which we tried to do in the past, but they're just not out there.
No,
They're
and
really just not out.
they're
It's all
not, and
anime.
I've been trying to find things for us to talk about, like, when we first were on the phone about bringing Sketching Up back, and, the bread and butter of Sketching Up is talking about animation
Yeah.
and talking about animated shows, and I was like, "Alright, maybe I find us something to watch, so we can have that as, like, a piece of the pod every episode to talk about the episode that we just watched." And as I'm going through, I'm like, I just don't none of this stuff feels worth talking about, honestly, like, what I was looking at. And if anybody has a suggestion, please
Please drop it.
flood
Drop
it,
it in the
flood us,
comments.
DM us, comment on this, like, do whatever you can.
Stop us in the streets.
Yes. Don't do that here in Philly because I normally just ignore everybody. Um, but it's when you talk about the '90s and the 2000s and that animation and how great it was between we had we had Nickelodeon, we had Cartoon Network, we had WB Kids, we had Fox Kids, and we had all these great shows coming on. And when I look back at those, like, they didn't run super long.
No,
Like,
none of
none
them
of them
did.
were like, they
2 to
were
4
2
seasons
to 4
max.
seasons, and I think that's a really good makeup for an animated show. But like you said, it's either gonna be a limited series or it's gonna run for 20 years. There's no in between. There's
No,
no middle
there's
ground.
no 4 seasons anymore.
Yeah, because you can
Everything went 2 to 4 seasons so much, you get shocked when you remember that Ed, Edd n Eddy went, like, 7.
yeah, yeah,
Like, it just you're like, "Oh god, like, that went 7 seasons, but Dexter's Lab went 2?"
yeah,
Like,
yeah, and so it's like it's hard to say like, "Yeah, let's pick something up and watch it." I mean, even and I think, like, we in our the last pods, like, the only real animated show we were talking about constantly was Invincible, and that's an
yeah.
adult animated show,
Yeah, for
and
sure, for sure.
for sure, and it's a lot of fun. It's one of the best animated series out there, in my opinion, but again, where's the fun and light shows that we can get? Like, when did that stop?
Yeah.
When did we go, okay, people only want to watch adult things now?
It's unfortunate too because, like, we're not even talking about the slapstick, and my opinion's pretty known. Obviously, the '90s are huge to me. That's when I grew up, and that's my childhood, and Ed, Edd n Eddy's one of my favorites. I even had the voice of Ed on Mad Props. Like, I love those shows, but I think the best animation was the 2010s, Adventure Time, Steven Universe, Regular Show, because they were able to tell stories while also being, like, enjoyable. Like,
Yes.
Regular Show is maybe one of my favorite shows of all time.
Regular
I
Show is
love
so
Regular
good.
Show.
Regular
Regular
Show
Show
is
could
so
easily
good.
have been an Adult Swim show. Easily
Yes.
could have been an Adult
Yeah,
Swim
and
show.
it's under the Adult Swim tab
I'm sure it is because
on
more
HBO.
more adults probably like it than
Yeah.
kids like it. But, like, it's one of my favorite like, not cartoons, like, I could rewatch that show a lot. I actually just super love that show, but they had depth and story. We even talked about, like, Gravity Falls, which when we did our bracket, won our bracket because it has a loyal fan base, but also it's probably, like, the best written cartoon maybe ever. Like, it's just written really well because they wrote the whole story out before they even started. Like, Alex Hirsch knew how he was gonna end it before he even started it,
Mhm.
and that's, like, the best way, right? Start with the end, work your way back to the beginning kinda thing. Um, but those shows, like, compared to the '90s was very slapstick. It was very, like, you hit the other character, they get a bump on their head. It was very Hanna-Barbera, like, era-based, it
Yeah.
was, the Tom and Jerry type thing. And then they actually put storylines to it. So now, as you get older and you're watching these, you can actually follow along and be like, "Oh, like the story of this is entertaining." And like you said, easy watches. Like Steven Universe to me, it's not for everybody, but it's an easy watch because it's very uplifting. That's the kind of stuff I would like in that kind of thing. So
Yeah, so it's hard in my head, like, I was hot to come in on this topic and, like, say it all in, and then once we're talking it out, it's hard to say, like, we're not gonna get anything because we haven't been getting anything.
See, that's where I was gonna shift to, I guess now is the best time to do it. I think Cartoon Network wise, we're gonna get a lot more. I just don't think I think it's gonna be all on Netflix. I think we're gonna start seeing more animation from Cartoon Network because that's kind of what Netflix's MO is. And it's not like Cartoon Network has been like the thing with animation is you need animation to create animation. Like when you think about it, like Johnny Bravo sprouted Seth MacFarlane, and I believe Butch Hartman came out of there somewhere. I
Mhm.
don't know if it was from Johnny Bravo or if he worked on, Family Guy or something, but I think he's from that same tree. But, like, the most notable one is, The Misadventures of Flapjack,
Yeah.
which had Alex Hirsch Rebecca Sugar and, what Paddington, the dude that wrote Adventure Time was a
Mhm.
part like, all, like, the biggest animated shows that you've seen in the 2010s, like, their writers came somewhere from Flapjack. Like, that show had a crazy all-star list of writers on it. So but you need those animated shows to create new animated shows because they have to basically prove themselves before they go and make their own show.
Right.
But that's not what we have anymore. It's like Teen Titans Go 70 times a day. I don't even know if that's still what Cartoon Network even does. That's how far away we are from even 5 years ago. Like, I don't even know what goes on the channel Cartoon Network or the HBO tab of Cartoon Network anymore. Like, I have no idea what goes on. I know that Cartoon Network is still constantly promoting Over the Garden Wall, which is, like, 8 years old now. They're still constantly promoting, like, Infinity Train I see on there all the time, which I believe was very driven for HBO because it's right around when HBO Max started.
Mhm.
It's still going. It's still on there. It was like a 2-season miniseries. Like,
Yeah.
that was 5 years ago.
Yeah,
It's been
it's
gone. It's
go
been past.
and, so, yes, I could see Netflix taking the reins of Cartoon Network and maybe, like, if this goes through, they wanna take the reins of Cartoon Network and start pushing that and maybe giving us more
I don't know if they'll
cartoon.
take the reins, but you're gonna see more I think you're gonna see more animation under the Cartoon Network name, and you're probably gonna see some bad stuff. But you're gonna start seeing more, which is gonna create more
Yeah, well, what I'm
people.
saying is they're gonna take the reins because, look, they're gonna try to compete with Paramount
Yeah. And
because they
Paramount's not doing much with the Nickelodeon
yeah,
space
but
either. If it wasn't for
but,
Bluey, I don't know what the hell they I mean,
like,
like,
what
actually
the
not Bluey, Bluey's Disney. I don't even know
eh,
what the hell they put on there.
what is yeah, is Bluey Disney?
Bluey's Disney, Bluey's
Okay.
Disney, yeah.
But, yeah, but like I said, that they put out Nickelodeon shows that just haven't been doing well, and partly because, 1, they're not actually on the Nickelodeon network, they're only on streaming. They're just
Yeah.
that's one of the big problems, and 2, they don't really know what they're doing. I just don't think they have known what they're doing, and so they're gonna try to compete. My only worry is that the owner of Netflix has come out a couple times now and said that, yeah, Netflix is going to get more into the AI space.
Oh,
So
that's a whole other podcast.
yeah, and that's a whole other podcast, but that's part of my worry about this
Yeah,
because
yeah.
AI is good for spell check and giving me some blurbs to write. And that's it. Not to write a show that I'm going to put out to the masses. Not
Well,
to not to animate my character.
the
Like
animation part might be something different, but I don't think it can write. I thought that was solved in the writer's strike a couple years ago. I don't think it can write shows.
I'm sure you can
You can find a way to do anything
find a
though,
way
I
to do it
guess.
with an AI. Like I don't think yeah, I know that was one of the big things in the SAG strike, but are you gonna tell me that they're not gonna find ways to get around it because it's cheaper to do that than it is
Yeah.
to hire a bunch of writers and directors and everything? Like,
The problem with having AI do it is with AI generated scripts suck.
yeah,
But
they're
then
horrible.
again, TV isn't made to keep your attention anymore. It's made for you to have something on your phone. Like if you actually pay attention to new shows, like they will literally just tell you exactly what's going on in the scene, every other scene, or exactly who they're talking to every other like it's almost like not human
Y
dialect.
yeah, yeah.
but it's because they know you're half paying attention while scrolling TikTok, and so you kinda need reminders of what's going on at all times. So it's funny if you like, people don't even realize it because 'cause you're not paying attention, but it's literally TV is made for scrolling on your phone. They've come out and said TV is made for half paying attention.
Yeah, so
So,
it's just it's gonna be interesting, and then the other side of it, stepping away from TV, a lot of movie theater owners are worried about this merger.
well, movie theaters are toast.
Yeah,
Give it
and
5,
so,
10 years, they're toast.
like, I think they have a right to be worried about it, but I also think, like, well, honestly, when I think about going to see like, when I lived in North Jersey, we would go to the Claridge, the small
Yeah,
little 100-year-old movie theater. We get tickets for $12, popcorn for $8, like, stuff like that. But if I wanted to go see Avengers Endgame and I wanna see in the IMAX, or I wanna go see Christopher Nolan's new movie, The Odyssey, and it's supposed to go and see it in IMAX in all of its glory because that's the way he shot it, I'm buying 2 tickets, it's gonna be $65, and then it's
yeah.
another 30 to $40 for food and drink, and it's like, why? Like, why am I
Yeah,
spending
why am
that?
I doing that? If I just wait 30 to 60 days, I could just
Yeah,
watch it at
I'm
my
gonna
house.
sit and make my own popcorn and have my own drinks, and I can pause it to go to the bathroom
Yeah,
and do all that, like and yeah, that takes it away, like, I love watching IMAX movies. I love them. I absolutely I love going to a Dolby theater and listening uh, to a movie that was made for its sound, like, I like that stuff, but, like, I also don't wanna spend an arm and a leg to go see these things,
yeah,
and so when I heard, like, them talking about this because of this merger and the owner of Netflix saying, "No, we're still Warner Brothers will still put out movies to theaters," like, yeah, but they kinda theaters dug their own grave. Like,
yeah, they
they
did.
did it. They did it on themselves by raising all these prices to astronomical ways and then saying like, "Oh, why is no one coming to the movies?" First, it
Yeah,
was
right.
blaming COVID, and then it was like, "No, it wasn't because of COVID, because even before COVID, I was spending $48 for 2 tickets to
People
go see
people
something."
were starting to stop their movie-going experiences. I don't know, movies I am not the best person to talk with movies. I'll say right now, I don't usually go to the movies. I don't really enjoy it, but it's not because I don't enjoy the movie, it's because I have a problem, like, sitting still. So I have to really know I'm gonna like a movie. And this goes back to times I've gone to the movies and either walked out. There's movies that I ended up enjoying when I watched it later, but I didn't enjoy it at the time because I just can't focus on a movie. And like you said, like you can't go to, if you have to go to the bathroom or something like that, you miss a whole scene of it or something. But my biggest problem with theater and the reason I don't go as much is because you spend all this money and you're like, all right, I'll try this movie. And then it's not great. And you're like, you feel like you wasted money. I had 2 times in college. I went on 2 dates in college where I brought somebody to the movies. Both movies, one of them, I don't remember what it was. I think it was that movie where they're in Paris and like everything's underground, something below,
Oh,
above is
as is
below.
above, as is below.
I didn't really enjoy it, but I'm not a big scary movie person either. Didn't really enjoy it. So, like, I'm sitting there like, wow, like, could have done so many other things. That's what goes through my head, though.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the other movie I actually enjoyed, but it just wasn't I don't know, I guess I just felt like it didn't I saw 42 in theaters, and I
Mm,
enjoyed it, but I was like, "I didn't have to see this in theaters. I coulda waited 2 months to see this on DVD at the time or at Netflix." You know what I mean? That's
mm,
what's going through my
mhm.
head, so I'm not a good argument for this kinda stuff. But if I'm having those types of thoughts, people that are going to the movies aren't gonna be like, "Oh, let's try this movie out." Like, if you don't know you wanna see that movie, there's no way you're spending the money to go see
R
that movie unless you just have funds to throw or you are just an absolute enthusiast.
Right.
Those are the 2, and if you're an absolute enthusiast, you're probably on some sort of membership where you're not paying an arm and a leg all the time, and if not, you're not just gonna be like, "Oh, I heard this indie movie's really good, let's go see it." Like, it's just not gonna happen because, like you said, $60 for 2 tickets, $50 for popcorn, $20 for a water, whatever it is. you can do so many other things with that money. You literally go to an amusement park if you wanted to and spend the
Yeah.
same amount of money. You go to a ball game and spend the same amount of
Same amount
money
of money, yep.
that you're spending seeing a movie that you have no idea what the outcome's gonna be. Which is funny that I say that because I can go to, like, a baseball game, no idea what the outcome's gonna be,
But it's
and
still gonna be fun.
still yeah, but you're still willing to spend that money because I can enjoy myself
Yeah. I
there.
feel like for me, it's and I feel like it's because, like, I'm getting older, like, I hate when I'm sitting in a movie theater and I hear people whispering.
Yeah, that too.
And, like, it used to never bother me, and now I'm like, "If you don't shut the fuck up, I'm gonna tell you to shut the fuck up."
You
Like
know why it bothers you? Because you just spent $60 for 2
yeah,
tickets and now
probably.
somebody's talking. You're
Yeah,
like, "Dude, this was fine when it was $5."
and I see videos of, like, different movies, or I hear, like, news stories of, like, "Oh, there was, like, a big fight in the movie theater." It's like, who has the money to go spend on this and then get into a fight and get kicked
Fight,
out?
yeah,
You just wasted so much money. It doesn't matter if the movie sucked or not, you just wasted all that money.
you know what is crazy too, especially in the age we're in where it's so expensive just to have TV and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Pirating streams just doesn't happen anymore. Pirating movies, I feel like doesn't happen as
Oh
much.
my
Like
god.
when I was young,
Remember Pirate Bay?
you pirated everything.
Pirate Bay, baby. I used to get all the movies on there.
That's what I mean. Like, you don't ever go to a friend's house and you like found a movie online.
Yeah.
But that used to happen all the time. Now I was younger too, but like even when I was in my 20s, like you would like have somebody come over and you'd find, whatever it was online.
Well,
Actually, I think I
that
saw the
was the
first
next step.
Avengers that way.
I feel like that was the next step from, um, movie rentals dying out, was
Yeah.
going and pirating things, because I
Yeah.
remember going and renting movies and, like, just grabbing a bunch with buddies and, like, being like, "Oh, this looks like it's gonna be horrible. Oh, I know this is gonna be good." We just got a slew of them, and then you just watch them, and, like, it's a good time to do that, and then
Yeah.
that went out, and then you're like, "Alright, let's go on Pirate Bay or LimeWire
Yeah,
and see
or
what they
one,
got
2,
on
3
there."
movies or
Yeah.
something like that, and we could just watch whatever we want and not have to worry about and that's because, rentals went up as well, and Netflix started the streaming stuff, and then it became a whole thing where Netflix would have everything. It was funny 'cause I remember when Netflix would have every movie,
Yep.
and they had the big shows, Friends and all that.
Everything, yeah.
And Hulu, literally, it was just like, "These are the shows you like, but you don't realize are on streaming." Like,
Yeah.
Parks and Rec is on here,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
like that kinda stuff. That was when New Girl was on there or something. Like, those were the shows that were on Hulu, and then Netflix was, like, the big punchers. And then everybody came in with their own but that's why I'm saying it's surprising, like, all these people are coming out in with their own streaming services, and we pay for them all. Like, it wasn't even that expensive back then, and we didn't do that.
Yeah,
Like, it wasn't even
I
that
think
bad.
the original Netflix, I remember when my family got it, and I think it was, like, maybe $5 a month?
Yeah, are you talking about, like, the streaming or
The
the
streaming.
the delivery one?
The delivery one, I think, was even a little cheaper depending on the movie you wanted.
I believe it may have been.
And then
Was it Amazon or was it Netflix that was the Scott Pilgrim book? I think it was actually Amazon. I was about to say Netflix, I think, was in it.
yeah, no, I
Things
think
from, like, 2003.
yeah.
And then
So, like, that's so long ago.
I
And
know.
so, like, when I think about it, I'm like, "Wow, it was so cheap back then." And then even, like, the HBO subscription to have on your television was cheap. And, like, that was easy, and then it all went to streaming, and it was still cheap, and then all of a sudden, that hit a boom, and they're like, "This is how we're gonna make money.
Well,
We're gonna raise it."
it's so expensive now because it's all about buying the shows or like The Office and Friends and Seinfeld and all those big shows, and they're not cheap to keep around. Like, I remember, I think it was Friends, they paid like $500 million for it. This is Netflix at one point, and it was only for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, it was like $100 million a year, but it was such a popular streamer for them, and it brought so many people too. And that's another thing, like, specific shows just aren't doing it. That's why Netflix is willing to go buy all of Warner because it's just not one certain entity just isn't bringing things anymore. Also, Netflix original shows just haven't been good in a while.
Yeah,
Like,
no, they haven't been good.
they haven't been dropped. Like, there was a stretch there when they first started, like I said, Orange is the New Black, House of
House
Cards,
of
like,
Cards, so good.
again, they threw things at the wall until some stuff stuck, but stuff did
Stick.
stick. It
Yeah.
did actually get there.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
I
was,
don't know.
uh was Arrested Development
Well, the Arrested Development was originally on Fox in the
right.
early 2000s, and then they bought it and made the new seasons, which were just bad.
Yeah.
That can't Arrested Development was n I don't think it could be made after the Bush presidency. Like, I
Yeah, it
just think
doesn't
that
really
it was
make sense.
perfect for that time. Unfortunately, the comedy was that's my favorite TV show of all time. Whenever we're talking about regular show, that's actually my favorite TV show of all time. I just
Oh, it's
think
so
it's
good.
just so funny. It's so well written. You have to that's the problem, though. It was made for streaming because you have to watch it, like, 10 times to even begin to understand a lot of the subtle jokes,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
you still haven't seen everything. But you couldn't do that in 2002,
No, you
like, there
couldn't.
was
No,
no
no, no.
streaming. You watched it on TV and you missed half the stuff that happened. It was just so well written. But they did the first 3 seasons, I think it was. Then it got canceled. Then Netflix picked it up, did 4 and 5. But 4 was, like, shot all different. Like, they would just shoot all of Portia's stuff, and then they shot all of, Jessica Walter's stuff, and then they shot Jeffrey Tambor. Like, they didn't all shoot at the same time. There's, like, the green screen action and all that.
Mhm.
And then the last season was just, like, off the
Terrible.
rails. It was
Yeah.
very weird. I don't did you watch it? Do you know how
Mhm.
it ends with, like
I can't remember how it ends, but, like, I know I wasn't happy with it. I was like, "This is so dumb."
so and spoiler for anybody I mean, you shouldn't go watch it because it wasn't good, but the very last scene, Buster, like, buried Lucille too in cement or something like
Oh,
that
yeah.
and
Yeah,
killed
yeah, yeah.
her.
Yep.
And it's like, "Where's this coming from?" And then
Yeah.
he, like, gets taken to jail for murder, and it's like the whole, "Oh, now there's a Bluth back in jail," but it's completely different.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, the original one, he's in for treason,
yeah.
it's for, like, fraud, but then
It's
it's, like,
fraud, and then it turns into
it turns
treason.
into treason, but then
Yeah.
it's not actually treason. He was set up by and all that, so, like, completely different,
Yeah.
but very strange way
Yeah,
to
so
end
it's
it.
just it's interesting to see what's gonna come out of this, and it's interesting to see if the shareholders take the Paramount deal now, because they still can. Like, the deal from Netflix was not finalized. So, they got this hostile takeover deals,
A
and so they
hostile
have to make a
takeover.
decision.
So silly calling it a hostile takeover.
Yeah, because I think there's something different where, like, if they all accept, it's a done deal. Like,
Yeah,
with this with the
they're trying
Netflix,
to
it's like
basically, they're trying to buy out shares. They're not actually buying the shares. They're trying to buy the votes of the shares by individually paying instead of doing one big where they all vote, even though if it's 51% yes, 49% no, it passes. Now they're being like, "All right, we need to buy exactly the amount of shares we need to get to this point."
well, the AP put out while you were on the phone before we started recording, I was reading an article that came out about, like, a couple hours ago, and that's how I found out that, like, Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law's
Mhm.
company is in on this buyout for with Paramount. Like, he's investing money into this. But also, you find out that, like, there's a bunch of Saudis that have put their money into Paramount that they wanna use to buy it, and it's just like
Yeah, I mean, that's why they have don't they had UFC or they have UFC or something like that, or is that NBC?
it's NBC.
I think it's CBS, isn't it? That has UFC now?
Yeah, Paramount has NBC now,
No,
UFC?
UFC, yeah.
Yeah, it has
Yeah,
UFC
because
now.
it's Saudi back now.
Yeah, it's Saudi back now. So,
That's why people are
that's
shocked they didn't get WWE as well.
yeah, yeah. That's pretty yeah, that was shocking. But, like, it's just it's like, "Alright, well, now Netflix is kinda looking better because it's just Netflix money, like, going into this, I
Now how
think."
does that even look better? That means it's our went from $5 a month to $30 a month. is why they
Yeah,
can now
but
buy
also,
Harry Potter.
hey, look, there's a new Harry Potter series. They're rebooting it. It's coming out in TV, like a TV show form. Okay,
I'm
so
sure I will
they
not
they
watch.
can't fuck with that right now. Uh,
Well, the actually, really quickly, before we wrap up, the big thing that came out of this that I read is not all these properties we're talking about as TV shows. They now own the video game Harry Potter and the DC
yeah,
video game, like,
Warner Brothers
franchise.
Gaming.
Yeah,
They would
which
own.
is that's, like that could be even bigger than buying the rights to those properties for TV and movie purposes,
Yeah, and
because
it's
that Harry
Netflix's.
Potter game was huge.
Yeah, Netflix really wants that because if you haven't noticed, like they're trying to push putting games onto Netflix that you can play,
Yeah, you're
and
not
so
putting the Harry Potter game on there, though. If you were, you thought your subscription was bad at $20 a month.
oh my god, I know. But no, I'm just saying that's what they're like. One of the things in that deck was about the gaming arm of Warner
Yeah,
Brothers, and that they were heavily wanted it because it's been so successful. Um, so it's it's one of these things where it's annoying to read about one because it's just like this is just so much money getting thrown around
yeah.
that you
Rich people
one
doing rich people things.
yeah, one, I don't know where the fuck does Netflix get all this money? I it's
Us.
yeah, but $87.5 billion.
It's gotta be this well, this is how I can think of it. Now remember, you can get the ad-free Netflix now, which is like $25 a month, or you could pay the $12 a month and have the ad, meaning they have advertisers paying them as well, which I'm sure is a lot of money coming into their pocket. That's probably where most of it comes from, to
Oh,
be
yeah,
honest
it's
with you.
mostly probably coming from ad
The
revenue.
fact that you can have a subscription where it still has ads needs a lawsuit behind it.
Oh, 100%. I was ready to get onto that bandwagon when Amazon Prime did that, where I'm
Any of
already
them.
paying. Well, they were kind of the first ones to do it, where
Yeah,
it
what the
was
hell is
already
Premium Light?
$13, and then it was an extra $1 for ads free. I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, this is so dumb." Like,
Yeah,
I
it
already
makes no
paid for
sense.
Prime. Like, I'm already getting my like, it's not just I'm paying for the streaming. I'm paying for, like, the fast deliveries and shit. Like,
Yeah,
it's not like I'm just watching Amazon Prime to
not
watch
just
it.
watching The Boys.
Yeah, like, I'm using it to buy things for my home and shit. Like,
Yeah,
you're already getting that money out of me. So, like, what do
yeah,
you need an extra dollar for advertising? You already have a fuck ton of advertisements on this site itself. So,
yeah.
what do you
Well,
need this for?
I will say the only thing I will say about their advertisements that it was always just Amazon pushing Amazon.
Yeah,
They never had, like, a Home Depot ad.
yeah, yeah,
Like, it's just Amazon pushing, like, you're watching The Boys and they're pushing Invincible. Like, it
yeah,
was
yeah,
always just a preview of one of their other shows. So, you're paying a dollar to not be advertised Amazon stuff for me. Or there would be, like, 30-second Prime Day
yeah,
ad to start.
ads,
It's like,
yeah,
it makes no sense because 'cause they're not even making money off it, which actually is brilliant because people will be like, "Well, I don't wanna watch this," so they'll pay the extra dollar, or you could just watch the ads that bring you to the other stuff. Like, they're not even actually, like there's no reason to pay more because you're just watching an Amazon ad, you
yeah,
know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're not making money off it, like, I don't know, it's kinda weird, but kinda brilliant at the same time, but
yeah. It's just I'm getting like sick of all this streaming stuff.
me too. Oh,
Like,
it's becoming bad. It's
it's
becoming really
becoming
bad.
so bad. And like
Let's
you
go back
said,
to Pirate Bay.
the only thing like I when we were putting this together, I sat down, I really thought, and I was like, you know what? Like the only streaming service that I'm interested to see a new show that pops up as of recent, probably maybe a year or 2 years, has been HBO. Like, honestly, like,
Yeah.
that's the only thing I've been gluing to, like and it's not even for the DC stuff, like, it's literally
No,
been
they just have
for
good shows.
they have good shows, great written shows, and so I'm like, "Oh, yeah, like, I'd rather watch that than scroll through a million things on Hulu, Disney Plus, and Netflix," where
Yeah.
the catalog on HBO is large, but it's not as large as Netflix and
It's
like
all it's all good. They do good stuff. The only other channel that's been like that is FX. FX always seems to
yes,
put out bangers.
yes,
They're really
FX has
good.
been really good.
Yeah, for
I
a
can listen.
long time. For really, really
They've
long
just been
time.
pumping out great stuff, and, like, the only thing that they have has been constant has been Always Sunny, and Always Sunny
Yeah.
has just been
But it wasn't
funny
always on
so much.
FX.
So, it's,
Was
like,
it? Or no, it was on
always a
FX. It
good
was
time to watch
FXX or
FX
something like
show,
that. It
like, I
wasn't
just
always
did
on one
Alien
of the
Earth.
channels. I don't remember which
Alien
one it
Earth was
was,
a
though.
lot of fun. Um, I did,
Uh-huh.
what else did I do? What else did we just do that came from FX? Alien Earth, um oh, there was one about, a woman who's diagnosed with a disease, so she's just trying to, like, live out her sexual fantasies. It's like a dark comedy. It was really
Interesting.
good. I gotta
No,
before we wrap
FX has some bangers. FX definitely has some bangers, for sure. They're
oh, I
very good
mean,
at what they do.
Justified is a great show. If you've ever haven't watched that, that's a great show. Um, oh, Dying for Sex, that's what it's called. That's a really good show.
Very on the nose.
Yeah, very on the
Good
nose.
job,
Oh, the
guys.
new show that came out last year, Adults, it's like a new the 2 writers wanted to do something that was kind of like in the vein of Friends, but in our time. Like
Okay.
a bunch of people living in a house, but it makes more sense. It's like the whole premise is that they're living in their friend's house, that their parents are retired and they went on this long trip so they can all live somewhere rent free in Brooklyn. And it's about them like trying to diverse an expensive city and try to get jobs and do all that. And it makes a lot of sense. And it was fucking hilarious. So that's another great show. And then another, oh, The Bear. The Bear has won like a
Yeah.
fuck ton of Emmys. That's a great show. And then my last one is the new show English Teacher, which is hilarious.
Yeah. No, it's always been, I mean, all the way back to like Sons of Anarchy is FX,
Oh
and
yeah.
the one where Zach Galifianakis is like a clown or something like
Oh,
that. I can't
Baskets.
Baskets was really successful.
Baskets
They
was
were solid. They're solid at what they do. But
yeah.
FX always puts out bangers, and now they're riding the coattails of Dave, which has been very successful for them as well. Anyway,
Dave,
we'll
yeah.
keep everybody updated as this goes along. Maybe here and there in little spurts. Probably not a full episode unless something really goes off the
Yeah.
chains. But for DC and stuff like that, probably okay. For
Yeah.
animation, I personally think it's going to be good. I think we're going to see a lot more coming out of it. Overall, it's all stupid in my opinion, but that's
Yeah.
just my
I don't
humble
think
opinion.
I don't think, like, if this merger does happen, we won't see something change for a good 5 years
Yeah, I
after.
agree. We're not going to see much from it if it happens, which it shouldn't because it's a monopoly. But anyway, that's
Yeah, that's
for a
nor here
different
nor
time.
there. It doesn't matter anymore in this world.
Make sure you go check out our last episode. We talked about the new Super Mario Galaxy movie, talked about why it should have been Super Mario World. I'm still a little salty about that. I'm sure we'll talk about that more as it gets closer. Also, check out Mad Props, new episode coming out. Hopefully it won't come out this week, if not next week. I'm not sure what the release date's going to be on that. But you can check out our last one with Dave Raymond, who is the original Philly fanatic. So definitely go check that out. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube and also follow us wherever you get your podcast, whether that's iTunes or whatever, Apple Music, whatever they call it these days, Spotify. I don't know I honestly don't even know what else has podcasts. iHeartRadio has podcasts. I don't think Amazon does anymore.
Amazon still does.
Amazon. All right. So Amazon, or probably
Or
Spotify is the best.
Apple's,
Yes. I don't, they're Apple Music. I said iTunes, but it's Apple Music for
yeah,
sure. It's not called iTunes anymore.
not anymore.
It has been iTunes probably for
For
15
years.
years.
For years.
Yeah, Apple. I
For
used to have
years.
Apple Music as well. Also, you can find us on YouTube Music because we're on YouTube, and go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Find us on social media at Sketching Up Podcast on Instagram and on TikTok. Is it just Sketching Up Pod or Sketching Up Podcast on X/Twitter?
Sketching Up Pod.
Sketching Up Pod on Twitter. You can go follow us on there, as well as we release clips and stuff from each episode. We're doing it pretty consistently, which is nice. You can also,
And December 11th, I'm going to hop onto Twitter and do a video on the release of the Supergirl trailer that's coming out.
there you go. There you go.
And
Maybe even go on our YouTube.
we're supposed to be getting whenever the new Avatar drops, when that comes out in theaters, that's when we're getting Avengers Doomsday trailer.
Ah,
So I think
there you
that's because the
go.
last pod I said it was gonna come out, like, this week, but I think it's next week that, the new Avatar drops. I think it's the 19th or something, and that's when we're gonna get our new Endgame
Same
trailer.
day?
What?
Emergency pod, same day?
Maybe,
Is that gonna be
yeah,
a same day thing? All right, so
maybe.
check us out there. Maybe we'll talk about it live on there or something like that. Follow us
Yeah.
again, subscribe to us on YouTube, Sketching Up Podcast. You can look up at Sketching Up Podcast if you can't find it as we continue to build that platform as well for Chris and Matt, which by the way, I never introduced us in the beginning. Never,
No one knows
nobody
who we
knows
are.
our name until now.
I'm Chris,
Um,
he's Matt.
yeah, I'm Charlie. Anyway, thanks you guys so much for being here. Thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next week right here on Sketching Up. Again, please subscribe and see you later.
Peace.
Deuces.